I read a funny article on Wednesday morning about the Houston Texans. It was written by a guy named Tim Benz with Trib Live. I'd never heard of the writer, never heard of the website or the newspaper, whatever it was, but the headline of the article immediately caught my attention. The headline read, Texans coping with DeAndre Hopkins' absence the same way the Steelers are moving on from Antonio Brown. There's a big difference between the Steelers situation with Antonio Brown and the Texans situation with DeAndre Hopkins. Although Antonio Brown was a world-class receiver, arguably the best receiver in the NFL for a 4 or 5 year span, he became a cancer in the locker room. He became a problem child, a distraction. He made the antics of Terrell Owens look tame. Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, they didn't have a choice. You can't have a guy like Antonio Brown in your locker room because it can split the team. There are naturally going to be some guys that support Antonio Brown. So it creates a mentality in the locker room of us versus them. And in a team sport like football, in a league as competitive as the NFL, that is a recipe for disaster. But unlike Mike Tomlin, Bill O'Brien had a choice with DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins, he's a great teammate. He was never reported to be a problem in the locker room. Like Antonio Brown, he's a world-class receiver, top 5 receiver in the NFL right now, and he's in his prime. He had great chemistry, a great off-the-field relationship with Deshaun Watson. But because he wanted more money in the middle of his contract, which isn't something unusual in the NFL, especially for wide receivers. Because of that, and because he didn't see eye to eye on some things with Bill O'Brien, O'Brien decided that DeAndre Hopkins just was too much of a headache, wasn't worth it anymore. So he essentially sent him to Arizona for free. It will go down as one of the worst trades in the history of the NFL. It will be eventually what I believe cost Bill O'Brien his job in Houston. Should have cost him his job months ago. He should have been fired as soon as he signed off on that trade. But the guy who is suffering the most right now from the absence of DeAndre Hopkins is Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson knew this was coming. Remember those cryptic tweets that he posted after he heard about the Hopkins trade? I made a video back then about why Bill O'Brien should be fired. Because if things don't improve drastically in Houston, I think Deshaun Watson could eventually demand to be traded. He has not looked like the same quarterback through the first 2 weeks of this season. And Jesus Christ, who can blame him? It's not his fault. Bill O'Brien has been in Houston since 2014. He has had 7 years to build a viable roster. 4 of those years, he's had to build around the strengths of Deshaun Watson. And look what we have right now in Houston. Offensive line, terrible. The defense, they can't get opponents off the field. The Texans' defense is allowing opponents an average of 8 plays a drive, 43 yards, about 4 minutes every opponent's possession. That's dead last in the NFL. They have yet to force a turnover. Now, some of you are thinking, well, that's against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. So maybe the defense can improve. But the Texans, their defense sucked last year. So I don't have high hopes for them. Since they took that 3-score lead last year in the divisional round of the playoffs against the Chiefs, the Texans' defense has given up 118 points in 10 quarters. Now, that's with a future Hall of Famer and J.J. Watt on the field and captaining the defense. The Texans' defense sucks. So, Deshaun Watson, so far this season, is constantly playing from behind. He gets no help from his running game. The Texans, they're 31st right now in rushing. The one guy that he could rely on, DeAndre Hopkins, is now balling down in Arizona and is probably going to transform Kyler Murray into a Pro Bowl quarterback in only his second year in the league. The Texans' offense is Deshaun Watson and a bunch of number 2, number 3 options at receiver. Brandon Cooks, the guy that Bill O'Brien brought in to replace DeAndre Hopkins, he was invisible week 1 against the Chiefs. Now, he had a good game against Baltimore on paper, but I call those stat stuffers. Kind of like Dak Prescott, how he builds stats in Dallas. You get down big early, put up big numbers that are inconsequential because you're not in the game and the defense is relaxed. Who else does Deshaun Watson have? Randall Cobb? Randall Cobb hasn't had a big year since 2014. Actually, that's the only great season that he's had his entire career. Besides 2014, Randall Cobb has largely been a non-threat. I'm not knocking the guy. He's a good number 2, number 3 option, but in order for Randall Cobb to be the most effective, he's got to have a number 1 receiver to play with. And Bill O'Brien traded that guy away. The only thing that has saved Bill O'Brien's job in Houston is that he has made the playoffs. Now, of course, each year in the playoffs, he gets outclassed by real NFL head coaches, but obviously just making the playoffs has been enough for ownership in Houston. But that is going to change. Guys like Deshaun Watson, just making the playoffs is not enough. Franchise quarterbacks want legacies. They want championships. And Bill O'Brien is doing nothing to help Deshaun Watson get that established. If anything, he's just getting in the way. He has hampered the Texans with bad contracts. He gave Randall Cobb $9 million a year to be the number 3 option at receiver on this team. Running back David Johnson, he's making $13 million a year. Now that's close to Alvin Kamara or Christian McCaffrey type money. For a running back who's touched the ball 22 times for 111 yards this season. Whitney Merciless, he's making damn near $14 million a year. He really earned that money against the Ravens on Sunday. He had a whopping 0 tackles, 0 sacks, despite being on the field for 70% of the defensive snaps. I say this all the time. Sometimes it's not just the losing, it's how you're losing. The 2020 Houston Texans, they haven't even been competitive. They are getting blown out. Vegas has so little respect for this team that they were 7 to 8 point dogs against the Ravens on Sunday at home. That is unthinkable with Deshaun Watson as your quarterback. The Texans, they just signed Watson to a massive extension, so he's not going anywhere anytime soon. Not that he'd be going anywhere anyway, because you do everything you can to not lose a franchise quarterback that's entering his prime. With the way things are going now, the Texans are going to miss the playoffs. Bill O'Brien has benefited most of his tenure in Houston by playing in a bad division. That's not the case anymore. The AFC South has improved. The Titans, they're legit. The Colts, they now have a future Hall of Famer at quarterback. Even Jacksonville. At this point, Jacksonville is better than the Texans, and they've got Gardner Minshew at quarterback. The bottom line, in order to keep Deshaun Watson happy, Bill O'Brien's got to go. I mean, the guy is just 52-46 in 6+ years while playing in one of the worst divisions in the league. 2-4 record in the playoffs. And these playoff losses, they are coming by an average of 21 points. When you're getting beaten down like that in the postseason consistently, that's a sign of bad coaching. The clock is ticking on Bill O'Brien's time in Houston. They're going to be 0-3 after they play the Steelers this Sunday. I realize they have hampered themselves in Houston with Bill O'Brien's contract. They're going to have to pay him through 2021, 2022 if they fire him. But in my opinion, that's money well spent. They need to get a head coach. They need to get a general manager in Houston that can build a championship contender around Deshaun Watson. Because obviously, Bill O'Brien is incapable of doing it. All right, that's all for today. Hit that like and subscribe button. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Leave me a comment in the section below. Bill O'Brien, will he make it through this season in Houston? Or do you guys think that he's the right coach for the Texans? Let me know your thoughts. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Have any questions, a topic you'd like me to discuss, you can email me at BTLKC84@gmail.com. I'll see you guys next time.